You're tuned in to Reimagine 2021, version 11, the #1 virtual crypto and blockchain conference. In this segment, our experts talk about the vibrant community surrounding NFTs.
What is your message to how NFTs will impact just the lives of everyday people?
I honestly don't think everyday life's going to change much. I think when you think about what NFTs represent, they represent for artists an artistic medium. For like collectibles and like that kind of niche, they represent like authenticity. I think there's a bunch of different things that they kind of plug into that already exist. And maybe in some ways they streamline a lot of things. And maybe in the music industry, it completely revolutionizes streaming and royalties and like the need to have like a record label or a middleman. I guess the same thing can be said for the art world and like curators, galleries, auction houses, etc. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to change it much. I think it's just like an improvement. It's like another avenue for income, another opportunity for innovation. And so, yeah, I think blockchain as a whole might have a lot higher impact on like revolutionizing everyday life, but that'll just advance the technology and the tools we're already using, I think.
I think that the tie between the artist or the creator and the collector, that's something that's really transferred over to the real world. So for example, Rafiq Anadol, who's also one of our amazing artists for AI 2041, he has a very active Discord, and he just had hosted an event for his Discord members on Monday with his new exhibition, Machine Hallucinations. And I think that's something where that artist would not have done before. You know, you're not going to say, hey, like, I know that these are my 100 or even 1,000 true fans. Like, they're the ones who are here for me through it all. They're the ones who are checking on my work and wanting to talk to me every day. And so I think that has fundamentally shifted that relationship and has added it to, real world events. I think what would be more interesting to explore in the future is kind of like token gated events. So for example, Friends with Benefits hosted a big party in Brooklyn at the Good Room on Monday, where you had to have 75 tokens in order to get in. And so many people were outside waiting in the line. It was absolutely crazy how many people came to New York and were like coming directly from the airport just for this event. And that sort of ticketing mechanism is something that you couldn't have explored before, because like, how could you prove that you're the member of a community of this scale and be able to get tickets? So I think this is something where, instead of like a newsletter going through your email inbox or, being invited as in a paper invitation where you can clearly track and monitor how many people you have coming to your in-person events and the ties between the digital goods and what that means for the utility that comes in person.
But what effect do you think community-driven NFT projects have on open markets?
Community-driven NFT projects will always sell better than not community-driven NFT projects. Because again, it comes back to one of the things we were talking about earlier, which is we all take the same mushrooms and decide in our mass hallucination that we value this particular thing. Take, for example, one of the great projects that I have been able to participate in, which is called Crypto Dads. Now, Crypto Dads, what has been fantastic about it is it identified a set of these crypto holders who are dads that talk about their dad bods, that talk about their New Balance shoes, they talk about their lawnmowers, they talk about, the grills that they're gonna do over the weekend. And it leaned into that community. It said, we're gonna create something specifically for these people. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna use dad jokes as part of our rare attributes. And in doing so, it made something specific to that community, which is what made it more valuable than just a random person putting up an image of a crypto dad. And that community engagement, that'll feed on itself. And it makes these projects more and more valuable on the outside. It's not to say that an independent, non-community driven NFT wouldn't fly. There have been plenty that have, but when you start with a community, you capture that enthusiasm, you capture that similarity, and that is what can take it to the next level.
In the future, this community-owned NFT type of model, how do you think it will disrupt centralized media?
Yeah, still, it's not about, like, I think it's the question not about NFTs, but in general. So, crypto can disrupt as a whole, and NFTs, like one other ownership model. So probably, yeah, it's just question how it's like on ownership level. So it's just different ownership level. It's better, like better talent involved, and better platform is built, and maybe kind of this way of disrupting.
What is your message to new people coming into the market on why NFTs will be significant for them?
I think that's a bit like you asking me in the early 2000s of why the internet will be significant to anyone. I mean, it's going to be so pervasive as a technology, and really it's you know, I don't know if we necessarily need to make a distinction between the ERC tokens that are fungible or non-fungible. I think that's less relevant. The fact that you have this smart contract technology, which is censor resistant and permissionless and open source, means that it's going to become pervasive. Its effects are going to be far reaching. We think that we are building essentially Web 3.0, and so advice for people looking at new technologies and trying to, you know, get involved. I mean, join a Discord chat, learn Solidity, get involved, apply to ConsenSys to apply for a job. We're hiring. There are many ways to get involved.
Do you think this whole movement is more about a cultural revolution, a technological revolution, or both?
So it's funny, being at the NFT NYC conference, it feels like you have this wild combination of different types of people all in the same place. You have technologists and developers that are super interested in the underlying technology, the infrastructure. You've got tons of artists that are here that are interested in this new way of being able to connect with their fans. And then you've got people who are like legal or in finance, and they're super curious about being here to see what this next generation of technology is actually going to bring from that perspective. And so it brings all of these different perspectives together in a very unique way. And it's really interesting to be able to talk to all of these different types of people. My background previously has been in tech, and so you go to conferences, and normally it's very siloed. You're talking to other developers, you're talking about infrastructure, it's very technical. And I've noticed in this industry, you just have the gauntlet of different types of people and different types of perspectives, and they're bringing so much to the table.
It's definitely both, but right now you're seeing the cultural revolution. I think culture has been kind of suppressed by perhaps the corporations and a lot of the intermediaries. You have artists who didn't have platforms that were totally theirs to own. Like if you wanted to be a photographer, for example, you basically have to pick and choose the platforms with the most users and the audience faces. So let's pick Instagram. If you pick Instagram to build your business and your portfolio, that's great and very useful because you have access to that community. Now imagine when Instagram goes, well, we're actually no longer going to prioritize our strategy for photographers or creators, visual creators. We're actually going to prioritize this new feature called the store, and we want to prioritize e-commerce. And that actually happened. That happened no longer than a year ago, I think. And they also have to figure out how to engage the users as well. And Reels is now a big thing because of the TikTok model. And so now you're basically without talking to the community, really, I think. They're making these decisions, and even this is kind of a personal experience as a photographer, you can see the metrics fall down the more you keep posting, and it's just a widely known thing. So imagine if you had this new platform that just existed and had the same user base and the same freedoms,
and perhaps even governance layered into it, where you're actually now being able to dictate how the platform goes forward. And of course, if you're not the majority, then that's just the way the votes go, but you at least have a voice. And that's where I think NFTs can really empower creators. And then at the end of the day, I think other startups and projects and individuals too, they're focused on, okay, well, collectibles empowering creators are great and clearly has gotten a little bit of traction. But what's next? And that's where the technology side comes into place too.
It's actually happening right now on other blockchains, not on Ethereum. Ethereum is expensive, so there is no sense to trade like cheap NFTs on Ethereum. That's kinda one thing. So there is other blockchains such as Flow blockchain, and it's cheaper in average NFTs. It's like NBA Top Shots, a lot of IP rights trading there. So then it's Tezos. Tezos has a really great community around mostly like digital art NFTs. It's very cheap. It's like maybe $50 there, so you can just buy, and the transaction cost is very low. So Matic also cheap, and there is different game NFTs there. So yeah, it's kind of work in progress, and soon we'll announce, like Rarible will announce that we kind of almost done, and we will releasing like this week or next week Flow blockchain, and soon like Thesis blockchain support. It means like you can trade, I mean, answering your question, yeah, so you can trade like cheap NFTs on Rarible for cheap, for almost for free, because you can do this on other blockchains.
Do you think NFTs will be more about the utility or the identity for people in the future?
Yeah, but identity is also, you can think about this as a utility of this kind of NFTs. Identity solutions, it's a really good fit for NFTs. Yeah, I think that still there will be more utility connected to NFTs later on.
So how do you see these markets for NFTs, like the audience itself?
So I think actually the current audience for NFT, I think there's like more than one market probably. So I think the NFT, as you kind of put it, is like more of a cultural aspect of blockchain, I'd put it. And if you think about it, you know, the initial NFTs were around these like CryptoKitties, like punks back in like 2017. And then now fast forward to 2021, you're actually seeing a lot of interesting various NFT projects that come out of it. So I think the initial kind of NFT cycle was with a lot of these initial crypto OGs or like crypto natives who wanted to really, you know, kind of show off their characteristics online, right? If you think about it, like Twitter, Discord is like where a lot of these communities are very active, but they wanted something that can represent themselves. I mean, also in addition to like kind of flexing some of their wealth basically accumulated over the past few years. So I think kind of NFTs serve that market initially. And then I think throughout this year, interestingly, we've seen like a more additional set of people come into the space. I do think the biggest driver so far in the NFT space is still the speculation aspect of it. Like, you know, will this asset appreciate in value basically? But that has kind of driven a lot more people through this cycle actually. A lot of them kind of retail based. I actually get a lot of like probably one text at least like once a week these days about like, oh, like what do you think about the NFT market? Like I'm thinking of buying these NFTs, what do you think? So we're kind of back in kind of that 2017 ICO-ish kind of cycle in my opinion, but with NFT this time. But obviously NFT is just like a lot more friendly to get to versus a token, right? So it's definitely bringing out a broader, I think, range of people.
There's no question NFTs have given enterprises kind of blockchain envy. So they look at these passionate communities around pieces of artwork, around causes, and they want the same thing. And we're going to see lots of enterprises issuing NFTs to their fan bases, trying to build the same sense of community. It'll be a little different in some industrial applications where we will see companies trying to build networks of suppliers and partners where they're much more sensitive to compartmentalizing their data. They don't want two competing suppliers comparing notes. But if you're talking about luxury handbags, and used products like certified pre-owned, that's something that's going to spread from cars to sneakers. There's going to be a history of those assets, and indeed, if you own an asset and you take care of it and you sell it onwards, it's going to become more valuable over time. We're entering a world of circular supply chains where I think it will increasingly be a status symbol to show that you have the oldest, not the newest.
Do you see CryptoPunks? People are probably like, why would I buy this? It's so expensive, the outrageous prices, that's what market value is at the moment. But in terms of, do you think CryptoPunks and some of these other collections can be labeled as like a store of value?
CryptoPunks as a store of value? I guess that's up to whoever's the community holding it. But it looks like it's holding its value pretty well. I mean, I think if you look at art as a store of value, why couldn't NFTs be a store of value? These seem to be now culturally important in the crypto world, and so I think they will sort of become some of that.
So the NFT market's been booming. Depending on who you are, how you approach it, it's all up in the air. How about yourself? Are you an NFT holder? And what does it mean to you?
I am an NFT holder. I think it's hard to be in crypto and not be, because what ends up happening is even for jumping on calls now, you get NFTs. So like NFTs are just everywhere and they're ubiquitous. And then there's obviously some very expensive NFTs that people are buying. What it means is just like, hey, I can prove that I was at this event, or I did this action, or I did this thing. One really cool NFT recently there was a project called Yam that was going through some difficult times, and they really asked the community to get together and help them out. And there was a financial incentive not to help them out. So you lost money if you helped them out, and you made money if you were kind of on the other side of that bet. And a lot of people came together and helped this protocol out, and for that action, it did work, and anyone that helped during that process got an NFT, sort of called Save Yam. And that's like sort of a badge of like, hey, you sort of helped out a project, a protocol, and sort of anyone that has that, I sort of see as like, wow, you kind of made a cool like moral move.
Do you think this provides inclusivity actually in some part of demographics?
For sure, I think it creates a connection. If you and I have that NFT or some other NFT, we can now talk about, hey, why did you get that? And now we have some connection, we have some similarity. So I think NFTs and communities are going to be really, really important, both physically and digitally.
So if you have the crypto NFT community, and they're kind of a meta community over all NFTs, and they've decided CryptoPunks are the first NFT, and they represent being in the crypto NFT community, and therefore I want to be part of that by showing I'm really engaged in it by having a CryptoPunk, then you're going to have a world where CryptoPunks become very valuable. And if you have that world, then it's just going to depend on who kind of wants to hold the CryptoPunks the least, and you end up very quickly in a place where they're going to go up a lot in value.